What's up, guys? It's all about Mike 18 here with another movie review. Guys, in this video I will be reviewing The Apparition. This is a new horror movie that just came out today, and let me just say this much. I did not want to go see this movie. I'll give you guys a little story before I get into the review. Originally, guys, I planned to go see Premium Rush today, and I can't wait to go see that movie, and I really did want to go see it because it looks like an intense, suspenseful, cool summer movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Michael Shannon in it. So I really wanted to see that. However, my friends called me and asked me, do you want to go see The Apparition with us? And I said to myself, nah, not really, because The Apparition, I'd seen the trailer for it online, and to be honest, it looked kind of bad. It looked like another bad horror movie, and I can't tolerate another bad horror movie. We have had some bad horror movies over the last few years. I kid you not, we have had some bad horror movies over the last couple of years. And I really didn't want to see another bad one because the horror movies have been really terrible over the last few years. But I said to myself, okay, fine. I love going to the movies with my friends. I am a horror movie fan, except for the bad ones. And I enjoy hanging out with my friends at the movies. So I said, alright guys, I'll go with you. So we went to the movie, we got out of the theater, and I said to myself, why did I skip Premium Rush for this movie? The Apparition, guys, it wasn't that good at all. It could have been a whole lot better. I was slightly disappointed with it. I did have low expectations for it, however, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but it was still kind of bad. Was it the worst movie I've seen all year? No, it was not the worst movie I've seen all year. Silent House is number one on that list. Let me just say that much. Anyway, also, I did, in a way, kind of want to see this movie, because if I went to go see my friends, then I would just come home and review it on my own, for my channel, and I would be able to rant about it if it was really horrible. However, I'm not going to go on a full rant with this movie, because it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Anyway, guys, I'm going to get right into the review. I'm going to talk about the cast, the plot, the rating of this movie. It's rated PG-13. Anyway, here's the story. You got 4 college kids are performing they're trying to perform this experiment that involves ghosts or something, and something goes wrong, and a ghost enters our world, and now it's haunting. It's beginning to haunt people. That's pretty much the plot. I'm going to talk a little bit more, go a little bit further into the movie. So the experiment kind of was a failure in the beginning. Now it flicks to the present. The movie focuses on the present day. It focuses on this couple, this young couple, played by Ashley Greene and Sebastian Stan. They are moving into this new house, and immediately, at least 15 minutes into this movie, I'm serious, 15 minutes into the movie, weird and creepy things start happening to this couple. I was really kind of disappointed with that immediately, right off the bat. Already, it's not even 15 minutes in, and creepy stuff is already starting to happen. I mean, they move into their new house, and they fall asleep, and then they wake up, and something creepy already happens. I was a little disappointed with that. Usually with a movie, when you move into a new house, and you get used to it, usually it's like 2 days in, and weird things start happening in like your regular horror movie. In this one, they just jumped into it way too quickly, and that was one problem I did have with the movie. But anyway, when I mean creepy things start happening, like I said, they fall asleep, and they had locked the doors before they fall asleep to their house. They wake up, the doors are wide open. Another part, Ashley Greene is putting clothes into a dresser. She turns, the dresser moves by itself. She turns back, and she gets scared because she didn't move the dresser, obviously. Then mold starts growing on the ceiling, and that didn't really make any sense at all, in my opinion. It grows on the floor, on the countertop. I mean, that's what I mean creepy. So this couple is obviously getting freaked out. They think it's their house when, in reality, the ghosts, the thing that's haunting them is after them. It doesn't have anything to do with the house. And there's your movie. The story, guys, it could have been better. It was alright. You know, it did disappoint me in a way. They could have done a better job on it. I was a little disappointed with it. Anyway, as for the cast of this movie, I want to get into how scary this movie was later in this review. As for the cast, you have Ashley Greene, like I said, and Sebastian Stan. in this movie. They are the young couple. Now, I think that they worked well together. The two actors, I liked their relationship. I had no problem with it. Sebastian Stan, he was Bucky in Captain America, First Avenger, and I liked him in that. I didn't have a problem with him in this. He was obviously better in Captain America. Ashley Greene I've never seen before. I think I've heard of her before. I've never seen her. She was good in this. I had no problem with her. However, I will admit, there is this one scene where she gets out of the shower, and I was just completely distracted by her appearance. Let me just say that much. She was hot in this movie, I'm going to be honest. Anyway, that's not why I thought this movie was okay. There were a few good parts to this movie, but there were few other bad parts to this movie. Anyway, you also have for the cast, you have Tom Felton. Tom Felton is in this movie, and Tom Felton, most of you may know, he was in the Harry Potter movies as Malfoy. Every single time I saw him come on camera, I'm like, oh, look, there's Malfoy. First time I saw him, I'm like, oh, look, Malfoy's in this movie. And if you guys hear me say Malfoy in this review, you'll know that I mean Tom Felton. When I say Malfoy, I mean Tom Felton. And he wasn't in the movie too much at all, really. He was one of the college kids in the beginning of the movie. Had a few other scenes here and there. Anyway, as for, there's one other actress that was in this movie that I have to mention. Juliana Gill is in this movie. Now, she was in only one other movie I know. She was in the Friday the 13th remake that came out in 2009. Most of you may remember that one scene she did that made her so memorable. She was that blonde girl that had that scene with that guy from Transformers. You guys will know what I'm talking about if you've seen Friday the 13th. And let me just say this much. I have fallen in love with Juliana Gill ever since I'd seen that scene. You guys will know what I'm talking about if you've seen Friday the 13th. Anyway, she was in this movie. She was another one of the kids, the college kids. She was barely in it. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much the cast that is really worth mentioning. Sebastian Stan, though, I will say this about his character. This guy, you knew that something was up with him ever since you saw him in the beginning of the movie. Like, right from the get-go, you see him, he doesn't answer a phone call he gets, and you're like, oh yeah, there's something up with this guy. That's something I just wanted to point out there. But anyway, the cast, overall, the performances were fun. I had no problem with them. That was probably one of the better parts of the movie with the performances. They were alright. As for the rating, guys, this movie is rated PG-13. Do I think the PG-13 rating is appropriate? Yeah. Is this movie scary? I'll get to that in a minute. Would it creep a little, like a 10-year-old kid out? Sorry for the police siren outside, guys. Would it creep a 10-year-old kid out? Yes, it would, probably, if they scare easily. Would it creep a kid older out? Would it scare a kid older? No way. This movie is not scary, which I'll get into later. There's hardly any bad language or anything. Kids can go see this movie, but they might get bored by it because it's not scary. Anyway, guys, that's something I do want to talk about next before I give my rating. I want to talk about if this movie was scary or not. There were a couple of creepy scenes, and that's the name for some of the scenes in the movie. I'm going to call them creepy. They were not scary. They were not frightening. They were creepy. And when I mean creepy, I mean put yourself in the character's position. If you were in that position, would you get creeped out by it? Yes, I would. Was I creeped out in the theater when I was watching it? No, I wasn't in any way. Was I scared with this movie? No. I'll give an example of a creepy scene. Ashley Greene and Sebastian Stan are sleeping in a tent outside because they're too afraid to sleep in their house because of all the weird things that have been happening, even though it's not the house. And Sebastian Stan is investigating a noise outside. Ashley Greene is asleep in the tent, and a security camera falls. The ghost takes a security camera that's hanging outside, picks it up, and we see what the security camera sees as it's moving closer and closer to Ashley Greene when she's in the tent and sleeping. That was kind of creepy. I guess you could call it creepy, but it wasn't scary. It did not scare me. Nothing frightening happened in that scene at all. Which, you know what, and some of those scenes where you think something scary is going to happen and it doesn't, they were disappointing. I'm going to be honest, this movie was disappointing with a few parts. It could have been a whole lot scarier. Anyway, guys, as for my rating of the movie, I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6.5 out of 10, thinking back, because this movie was really not scary at all. In any way, this movie is not scary. And I'm going to keep saying that because that is really disappointing, because if you have a horror movie, of course you want it to be scary. The last couple movies we've been getting over these years, or the last few years, have not been scary at all. The horror movies have just become worse and worse and worse, and it's really starting to bother me. It's really starting to worry me, too. We really need some good writers in Hollywood that'll think up some really creepy and scary movies, like Paranormal Activity or something like that. Anyway, guys, I gave this movie such a high rating because there were a few interesting parts with the movie. And when I mean interesting parts, I mean the cast was good. I had no problem with them. I liked some of these cast members from other movies, namely Malfoy and Sebastian Stan and Juliana Gill, of course. The story was okay. It could have been better. And there were a few creepy parts in it. Like I said, when I mean creepy, put yourself in their position, and yeah, you get kind of creeped out. And then there is another thing I did like about the movie. The overall idea of the ghost's plan, like the ghost, what his plan is mentioned in this movie. Malfoy mentions it in a recording towards the end of the movie, right before the final scene. He says why the ghost is here, what the ghost plans on doing. I like that. I like that idea. I thought it was clever. But that's really the only good things I could talk about for this movie. Now, on to my complaints for The Apparition. Complaint number one. There were some characters in this movie, I don't know if I mentioned this before, that were kind of underused, namely the neighbors. Ashley Greene and Sebastian Stan, they just move in the house and they meet their neighbors, and the neighbors are shown a total of 3 times. And you want something to happen to the neighbors, but nothing ever does. And I know that the ghost was only after Ashley Greene and Sebastian Stan. It wasn't after anyone else, really. But it would have been nice for them to add that scene in, a scene creeping out the neighbors. It just doesn't happen. The neighbors are hardly even in the movie at all, in like 2 or 3 scenes. That was a disappointment. Also, like I said, the thing with this movie not being scary, it was not scary at all. Maybe creepy. If you put yourself in that position. Was it scary? No, it was not. It was kind of sad how not scary this movie was. We just don't get good scary movies anymore. I mean, it's becoming a real problem in Hollywood. It is. Another thing, the movie is very short, and this is something that has always pissed me off with horror movies. Horror movies are always ridiculously short. This movie is not even an hour and a half. It's probably like an hour and not even, I don't even know if it's an hour and 20 minutes. I think it's even shorter than that. And they could have added so many more scenes into this movie, but they just didn't. I wanted to see a few other creepy scenes, but they just don't add them in the movie. They rushed into the creepy things happening in the movie, when I mean like the couple getting haunted. They just rushed into that, and they could have added more scenes in. A few scenes I felt were even like useless. They didn't even need to be there. So yeah, I had that problem. Also, the ending in this movie. The ending I really need to rant about. The ending in this movie was horrible. There was one good part with the ending, which was what I mentioned before. The ghost's plan was mentioned by Malfoy briefly in the movie, in a recording. That I liked. However, the very ending shot, which was, by the way, spoiled in the trailers, the very ending scene is actually in the trailer for this movie. I knew it was coming. I was waiting for it throughout the entire movie because it looked kind of cool in the trailer. That was probably the only cool part of the trailer. And then I'm like, oh no, don't tell me this is the final scene. And it was the final scene. The final scene is in the trailer, guys. That's a big disappointment, if you ask me. That was another problem I had. And this movie, in the end, it's not memorable at all. This movie, it's not memorable. I walked out of the theater. I've seen this movie hours ago, and I don't really remember it too well, to be honest. It doesn't stand out in any way. It's not one of those memorable horror movies at all, guys. Trust me. And, I mean, this movie, like I said, if it has all those faults, then it doesn't deserve anything higher than a 7 out of 10. So that's my review for The Apparition, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. This movie, I do not recommend it to anyone with that many faults, with a bad ending, with a short movie, with underused characters that really didn't even matter, with some scenes that didn't even need to be there, and with a movie that's not even scary. This movie does not deserve anything higher than a 7. Other than a few cool parts, I would give this movie a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. Probably going to end up going with a 6.5 because I'm just looking back and this movie is scary. But to be honest, it's not even, I don't even remember it too well. So guys, I will not buy this on Blu-ray. If you want to see The Apparition, rent it or watch it on TV and even then you might not still like it. This movie has a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, so that's telling you something. A 0, meaning no positive reviews. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching this review. Stay tuned. I got reviews coming for Premium Rush and The Possession. Hopefully those movies are a lot better than this. Thank you for watching, guys. Bye.